Good morning to you.
Good morning, Joe. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, and thanks for joining us today. Listen, Mark, I got in contact with you because of the many faces of Cashel. It's a Facebook page. If you would describe it for us, it's something, I suppose, that gives people a bit of a social outlet while also kind of looking back on a history that acts as a glue within the community, something everybody has in common.
Oh, yeah. I tell you, I suppose about 6 or 7 or 8 years ago, maybe, I would have started up the Facebook group. I suppose going back, I always had huge interest in photography, have worked as a photographer myself, but it was always the old photos. It was seeing a gorgeous black and white photo somewhere, and what I done is, first of all, I suppose I would have gathered up old photos after my nanny and I suppose family members and that, and after setting up the Facebook group, then, you know, you put up 2 or 3 photos, somebody gets in touch with you, you know, of lovely photos here or whatever if you want to collect them, and it was kind of all word of mouth. And I think it's very much, if somebody sees a few photos being posted up, they say, you know, I have a couple of photos in a box there at home and I must root them out. And I suppose not everybody have a way of scanning the photos, Joe, so that's why when they've given them to me, I love putting them up, and I suppose now we nearly have 7,000 people on the page. I suppose people, the Cashel diaspora, I suppose people living away from home, I suppose it serves them very well, and what I love seeing about it is, recently I put a post up a few days ago and there was a photo of a young man standing on the fountain down in Cashel in 1960, and I put the photograph up and I got a message back saying, that's me, I'm now 81 and I'm living in Australia.
Oh, that's the beauty of it, isn't it?
Absolutely, it's wonderful for that, and just to see the guy Conor Ryan with his name, and to see him talking with his old friends Sean O'Dea on it, you know, both guys, that's both Sean up on his 80s now as well. He'd probably kill me for saying that. But to see people of that age, you know, using Facebook for that, I know there's a lot of social media gets a lot of bad press and that, and rightly so, but this is the really good thing about it. I'm the administrator on the page. I can see the page is up 500% in the usage since the lockdown, you know.
500%.
It's up the usage of it. I suppose a lot more people are sitting around it. I suppose I fell out of love a lot with Facebook. I'd be more Instagram user myself, but I love putting up the photos. I had to turn notifications off on my phone. I put a few photos up this morning. There's about 500 notifications after coming into me. But, you know, what's lovely about it as well, there's a woman sent a message to me from Australia, and she said that she's on lockdown in Australia, cocooning or whatever they're calling it. And she said that, like, the page is keeping her going. She said she's waiting on seeing the posts coming up, and I suppose it's a lovely trip. I suppose we all like a trip back memory lane, don't we, you know? I wonder how we'll reflect on this time in our lives when we look back.
Well, exactly. It's going to form a
lot of good things coming out of it as well, you know, creativity, you see that, and you know, I find that people, what I would love for people to do, I've done a couple of books, Joe, and just while I think of it, I'm after finding a box of books here. If there's anybody in a nursing home, or if there's people away from family, I've 20 books here. I would more than happily donate them to, even if I could drop them to the nursing homes locally. The people within the nursing homes might be able to have a trip back memory lane. The books are about 200 pages long each, and they're full of colour and black and white photos and interviews with people and people's memories and memoirs and things like that. So if there is anybody to get in touch with me on the Facebook page, I've already been in touch with somebody. I'm going to drop 1 or 2 to St. Patrick's. I don't know what the procedure is. Can I call to the door, or if somebody meets me, I can leave them somewhere in town, you know, so that might be nice for people who don't have access to phones, you know.
Absolutely, because of course there are people that do not have access to phones, and I think books like that also, and you know yourself, they're great for flicking through, aren't they? You know, you could lose a few hours of your life almost instantaneously with books like that. You know,
I suppose they took so long to do, I kind of fell out of love with them a bit myself, and you know, I'd be very proud of them to look at them on the shelf and things like that. But I suppose in the space of a month, in the first book, 3 of the people in the first book, you know, Willie McGrath, a great friend of mine, and the Dutch Luke, and Dutch was an unbelievable character, and his first cousin, Foxy Fitzell. The 3 boys would have all been reared up around Calbrew and that, and Daisy Square. The 3 of them died all within about a month of each other. Right. And I suppose it's only then when you take it out, and I suppose it's a lovely, for their families, it's lovely to have their little life stories. Look, nobody can you can't put a life story into 4 or 5 pages of text. But what I love is just getting the old stories. I suppose it's social history really that I'm into. I love to know how people lived and what times were like, you know, and I suppose then the photographs to go with it. I'm currently putting a third book together, and, you know, I would have grown up in Calbrew, you know, and Abbeyside, and I suppose they're all the people that I knew, and I suppose sometimes people criticise me for it being, you know, very Calbrew heavy, but they're the people I grew up around and I knew. You know, if anybody would like to be in the books, I would love to put people's memories. Even I put a photo up of Alice's Bistro down the town the other night, and, you know, to see all the memories it brought up of people playing the jukebox below, and I think people seeing the photo, they can almost bring themselves back to the time and the place, you know. So that's what I love about seeing the old photos. It's the conversations you see going up underneath them, you know.
Yeah, and nowadays, you mentioned at the very beginning about, you know, the diaspora, how the diaspora, you know, are particularly taken with this, but things have changed now to such an extent, whereas people are in such isolation and cocooning and so on and so forth, they're almost like diaspora at the moment. Absolutely. You know, the level of distance there is between people.
Yeah, you know, I was only talking to I'm very lucky. Both my nannies are still alive, you know. Nanny Cathy is in her 90s and Nanny Sheila's in her late 80s. But, you know, from talking to my Nanny Cathy the other day, she said that, like, she said she lived through this before. She said she can remember TB and, you know, polio and all these things, and then she firmly believes that when this is gone somewhere down the line, something worse again will come on then, you know. But it's lovely for people to be able to see the photographs, and again, I said it, I'm repeating myself, I've seen so many lovely messages I've gotten from people and what it means to them, and even loads of casual people saying, you know, I suppose for a long time I took my foot off the pedal with the page and that, and like, I literally have thousands upon thousands upon thousands of photos, and I just think it's a lovely archive. I would think that of any town in Ireland that we have the biggest archive of photographs up on it, and what I would hope to do is sometime eventually to get all the photographs together that I have on hard drives and give them to the library in Thurles. You know, I suppose just I've made a couple of notes there written down for myself. I suppose I'm just the one who's doing this. All of this, people have done this before me, you know. The late Philip Cronin was wonderful. Philip not only being a photographer, but Philip was a wonderful collector of old photos. Philip used to call to people's houses and you could see a photo and he'd take the photo away and he'd make a copy of the photo and drop it back to them. So, you know, I think Philip must be dead nearly 20 odd years, but his family, you know, they were very good. They gave me a big, huge scrapbook of his photos. So I have a lot of the photos that you would see would be like that. You know, the late Martin Bobb, Cashel Folk Village, you know, like the town will never pay back Martin all that he's done in preserving the history of the town, you know. And my good friend Pat Dunn, who died only a few months ago, like Pat was wonderful collector of old photographs as well, and his family have been wonderful donating and giving me photos. You know, I think it's very important that when people give you photos that you're good enough to give them back, Joe, as well, you know, because photos mean a lot to people. Yeah. But like, the sad thing about it is, you know, you hear so many stories that, you know, if somebody dies, they're the last of their generation and the last of their family. Like, how many tin boxes of photos are thrown out into bins and, you know, thrown out into sheds, and the shed gets a leak in it. You know, if I scan the photos are put up there, you know, they last a lot longer than they would in a tin box out in the shed, you know.
And of course, it's a valuable thing you're doing, because as you say, you know, you intend one day to donate, you know, your hard drive to the local library, as an archive, I suppose. And you mentioned the people that have gone before you as well, you know, and you've kind of taken up the reins, and without those people who've come before you, then, you know, even more would have been lost to history.
Unbelievably so, you know, and again, like, I'm just minding this archive at the minute, you know. Like, I would be very blessed. Like, one of my great friends, Mickey MacDonald, Mickey's dead over 3 years now, you know, and there's not a day that goes by I don't think of Mickey, but I suppose Mickey instilled a lot of that into me, that, you know, like Mickey, I've wonderful collections of Mickey's photographs and things like that. I think it's important as well that if we can name as many people as we can in the photographs, that we store it, that for future generations. I know that it's wonderful. It's wonderful. Recently I got a photograph of my granddad, and it's a photograph of my granddad dead 13 years. The photograph I had never seen of him, you know, and I think it's lovely for families when they see that a picture appearing of a loved one who's no longer with us or whatever, or even a photograph of yourself when you were younger or something like that you see it popping up. I think I think people really, really like that, Joe, you know.
Yeah, things like that. I remember once myself that we came across a photo once of, I don't know, was it my great-grandfather or great-great-grandfather, but he was pretty much the image of myself. And, you know, you wonder to yourself, over those generations, you know, that similarity remains. But it's just things like that, isn't it, that are so precious about photos. They're so individual. They're so personal.
Yeah, and you know, there's just something about those black and white photographs, you know, they're magical. You know, I'd see black and white photographs coming in. There was a great photographer, Richard Maloney. He had a photography studio down on Main Street in Cashel, and you know, I would know his photographs in a minute if I saw them. You know, and there's so many of them. Everybody of a certain age, I suppose, come back before the 1950s. Anyone who would have made their first communion would have been brought there. Or, you know, my own nanny and granddad's wedding photos were taken down there in the studio. You know, so like we'd some wonderful photographers in the town. You know, I've lots of Phillips stuff, I've lots of Mickey stuff, and again, I'm only the keeper of these. I'm only minding them, and again, I've taken thousands and thousands and thousands of photos myself, and I'd always encourage people who are into photography, even just walking around the street. I'm not hugely into landscape photography or anything like that, but you know, you might take a photo of two people on the street. I just put up a lovely photo of Eamon Holmes. Eamon sadly died. Come back a couple of years ago, a young man and Conor Turner. It was just a snapshot I took one night down the town, and you know, that photo means something to people now. So anybody into photography, when you're out around the town, take photographs of people and things like that. And I suppose with phones now, I've seen pictures taken on somebody's newer phones now, and they put my pictures on my camera. But you know,
yeah, but you know the thing about that is as well, there's something disposable about photos on phones as well, or you know, it's created that kind of thing too, which is
there definitely is. Yeah. I believe that a photo is not a photo unless it's printed.
Yeah.
You know, there's something gorgeous about looking at it. Again, I've been taking photos maybe for the last 7, 8, 9, whatever years, but like, I'd say that if I've ever printed 300 photos, you know, it's and that's from taking hundreds to thousands of photos. You're right there. You know, if you look at little things like photo box, even now they're lovely to go online when people have time and just make up photo books. And there's nothing like finding an old photo album in the attic, is there, and rooting through it. And you know, old people were great for writing down the names of who was in the photos and things like that. You're right, Joe. There is something very disposable about photography now. You know, but I suppose like the archives, like the one that we have, you know, people can.
There's the positives.
They can print them off their phone.
Yeah, there's the pros and cons of everything, of course. Listen, Mark, we're going to have to draw things to a close. You're working on your third book, is that correct?
I'm working on a third book, Joe, yeah. And again, look, if anybody wants to get in touch with me, look, I've wonderful interviews with Nicky MacDonald, the late Padraig O'Mahuna. You know, I nearly have enough to fill a book with the two boys. But what I'm looking for is little memoirs, little anecdotes, little stories. Again, there's nothing going to be put into the book that'll insult anybody or anything like that. You know, sometimes people get upset about the use of nicknames and things like that, but don't only use them for identification, things like that, you know. But it's just lovely. I put up a little photo of a woman called Katie Fail, and I remember her from my childhood. See all the lovely little memories that people have. People might think a story that they have. Everybody have a story to tell, Joe. Anybody that lives any few years or anything like that, you know. And I just want to get more people involved in the new book. It'll probably be a book of more photos maybe than text like the other ones, where, you know, I still have 4 or 5 or 6 interviews done with people. And anybody now, people are gone so good on computers, you know, people write their own. I can't call people in times that we're in at the minute, but if people want to write out little memories, that's why I'm trying to put photos up on the Facebook to I suppose stir up these memories and things like that. But no, that's what I'd hope to do. I'd love to have the book ready for Christmas, you know. I think it'd be a nice, you know, something good to come out of times that are so hard for a lot of people.
Well, we'll see how present things go. But listen, Mark, it's the Many Faces of Cashel Facebook page, and a listener has texted in to say, "Hi Joe, just listening to Mark Fitzell. I'm not native to Cashel, but living here for years and made it very welcome. I just love the Many Faces of Cashel Facebook page. Look forward every day to the new photos going up. Thanks a million, Mark," says our texter. So there we go, Mark.
Nice. Yeah. Joe, thanks for everything.
Listen, thanks very much for taking our call today.
All the best, Joe.
All right, we'll catch up with you again. Have a good day. Good morning to you. Bye-bye now. That's